The gate opened with a sound like reality, tearing itself apart. The council chamber of the Valdari Empire, filled with prismatic light as dimensional energies, coalesced into a stable portal. High Magistrate Torvin stood at the center of the summoning circle, his forearms raised in ritual completion. Around him, the other council members maintained their positions, their telepathic chorus still humming with the final words of the ancient spell. They had done it. After 3 cycles of preparation, after sacrificing their most powerful artifacts, after nearly bankrupting the Imperial Treasury to acquire the necessary components, they had finally opened a bridge to the realm of the prophesied warriors. The legends spoke true, Torvin whispered, his voice carrying across the silent chamber. The gate to the realm of heroes stands open. The Valdari had spent generations searching for this moment. Their empire, once spanning 300 star systems, had been reduced to a mere 40 worlds. The devourer swarm consumed everything in its path, an endless tide of chittering horrors that stripped planets down to bedrock and moved on. Every conventional weapon had failed. Every tactical innovation had been consumed and adapted to. The swarm learned, evolved, and grew stronger with each victory dot, so the Valderar had turned to older methods. Ancient texts recovered from pre-spaceflight civilizations spoke of summoning rituals, of gates between dimensions, of calling forth champions from realms where warriors were forged in conditions so harsh that they emerged as living weapons. Earth, the texts had called it. Earth, a death world where gravity crushed the weak, where atmospheric storms could level cities, where the dominant species had clawed its way to the top of a food chain filled with monsters. A place where survival itself was an act of daily violence, the perfect crucible to forge the saviors the Valdari needed. Torvin stepped toward the shimmering portal, his primary eyes widening as shapes began to emerge from the light. Here they came, the heroes, the champions, the salvation of his people. The first figure stepped through, and Torvin felt his confidence waver. The human was shorter than expected, barely reaching Torvin's lower shoulder. It wore strange clothing in mottled patterns and carried equipment that seemed primitive by galactic standards. No energy shields hummed around its form. No power armor encased its fragile frame. Just fabric, metal, and what appeared to be chemical propellant weapons. More humans emerged, 12 in total. They moved with unsettling efficiency, immediately forming a defensive perimeter around the portal without speaking a word to each other. Their heads swiveled constantly, eyes scanning the chamber with predatory focus. One of them, bearing markers of authority on its uniform, stepped forward. It studied Torvin for a long moment before speaking in a harsh, guttural language. The translation matrix flickered to life. Identify yourself. Where are we? What is the tactical situation? Not questions, demands. Torvin tried to project confidence as he responded. I am High Magistrate Torvin of the Valdari Empire. You have been summoned to aid us in our darkest hour. The devourer swarm threatens to extinguish all life in this sector. We called out across dimensions for champions, for warriors, for those who could turn the tide of this endless war. The human commander turned to his companions and spoke rapidly. Several of them touched devices on their wrists, and strange equipment emerged from their packs. Within moments, they had established some sort of scanning array. Sir, one of them reported, atmospheric composition is breathable. Gravity is 0.78 standard. No immediate biological threats detected. We're reading as being approximately 43,000 light-years from Earth, but that's preliminary. The commander nodded, then turned back to Torvin. I am Captain Blake Harrison, United Earth Defense Force, Special Operations Command. You have illegally transported military personnel across dimensional barriers without authorization. However, given our current situation, we're willing to hear you out. Explain this threat you mentioned. Illegally? Torvin felt confusion ripple through his thoughts. These were the summoned champions. Destiny had brought them here. How could destiny be illegal? He gestured, and a holographic display materialized, showing the steady encroachment of the swarm across Valdari space. Red markers indicated consumed worlds. Amber showed systems under attack. The green zones grew smaller with each update. The Devourer swarm has been advancing for 7 cycles, Torvin explained. They consume all biological matter, break down all resources, and leave nothing but barren rock. Our fleets cannot stop them. Our weapons only slow them. We need warriors who can think like predators, who understand violence on an instinctive level. The ancient texts said your world produced such beings. Captain Harrison studied the display with unreadable eyes. How many worlds have they taken? 260. Total population loss? Approximately 900 billion sapient beings. The humans exchanged glances. Torvin couldn't read their expressions, but something had shifted in the chamber's atmosphere. The air felt heavier. And you want 12 Special Forces operators to stop this? Harrison's voice carried an edge that made Torvin's scales prickle. You are the champions. The prophecy said those who emerged from the portal would possess the strength to turn back the darkness. Harrison was quiet for a long moment. Then he tapped the device on his wrist. Harrison to Earthcom. Come in. Static hissed through the chamber. Then a voice emerged, distorted but intelligible. Earthcom reading you, Captain. Your telemetry just went crazy. What's your status? We've been involuntarily transported approximately 43,000 light-years from Earth by unknown means. Currently in contact with representatives of the Valdari Empire. They're facing an extinction-level threat from something they call the Devourer Swarm. Sir, we're looking at genocide on an unimaginable scale. 900 billion dead and counting. More static than a different voice. Older, harder. Captain Harrison, this is Fleet Admiral Roberts. Hold position. Do not engage in any hostile action. You've got approximately 40 seconds before the cavalry arrives. Torvin felt confusion cascade through him. Cavalry? They had summoned 12 humans. How could more possibly arrive? The air above the chamber began to shimmer. Not with magical energy this time, but with something else. Something that made the Valdari's most sophisticated sensors scream warnings. Then the sky opened up. Ships emerged from nowhere. Not the graceful, curved vessels of Valdari design, but angular predators bristling with weapons. One appeared, then 10, then 100. The holographic displays went mad, trying to count them as more kept arriving. Capital ships the size of mountains. Carriers that could swallow Valdari dreadnoughts whole. Thousands of smaller craft swarming between them like insects. Torvin stared upward through the chamber's transparent dome, his mind refusing to process what his eyes were showing him. The legends had said nothing about this. The prophecies had spoken of warriors, not an armada that blocked out the stars. Captain Harrison's wrist device crackled again. Captain, this is Admiral Roberts. We've got eyes on the situation. Preliminary scans confirm hostile. Biological entities matching the description of this Devourer swarm. They're approximately 7 light hours from the current Valdari defensive line and advancing. We're reading them as a Tier 1 threat to sapient life. Understood, sir. Captain, Earth does not negotiate with extinction events. You are authorized to offer full military cooperation to the Valdari Empire. Make it clear that this is not a negotiation. The swarm ends here. Harrison turned to Torvin, and for the first time, the High Magistrate saw something in those predator eyes that made his blood run cold. Not cruelty, not anger, just absolute, unwavering certainty. High Magistrate, you wanted warriors from a death world. You wanted beings who understood violence. You got your wish, but not in the way you expected. Harrison gestured upward at the fleet. Earth doesn't send champions. We don't send heroes. When we face an extinction threat, we send an extinction response. The holographic display updated as Earth's sensors came online. New information flooded in about the swarm, composition, movement patterns, reproductive cycles, weaknesses that the Valdari had never managed to identify. Your swarm made one critical mistake, Harrison continued. It threatened sapient life on a scale that humanity finds personally offensive. We've been the prey. We clawed our way up from being hunted to becoming the hunters. And now we've extended that protection to every sapient species we encounter. Torvin found his voice. But the prophecy spoke of champions, of heroes. You misunderstood, Harrison replied. Earth doesn't produce heroes. Heroes are individuals. Earth produces something far more dangerous when threatened. We produce a species that remembers what it means to hunt. Every human up there in those ships comes from a world where everything tried to kill us, and we won. We won so decisively that we went looking for more challenges in space. The swarm is about to learn what happens when it threatens something humanity has decided to defend. The display showed Earth's fleet repositioning, moving with a coordination that seemed impossible for such a massive force. Battle plans emerged and updated in real time as thousands of tactical computers shared information across quantum links. High Magistrate, Admiral Roberts' voice echoed through the chamber. The Earth Defense Force is assuming command of